No, the bottom just fell out. Getting a little lightning out there.
We had a total of around 7,000 people overnight without power. Most of those outages were there in DeKalb County. The storm's also causing problems for drivers on the road in DeKalb County. This is video of Parker Avenue. You can see a tree fell on a car there. All right, let's take you over to Morningside Drive. This is north of downtown. Winds took down a tree on the roadway. As you can see, the whole roadway was blocked off. Finally,
and the things that are making little synapses in our brains go, I want more of that.
That's right.
And this is countering that.
As AI has become more popular, what happens when that can take over your higher reasoning?
Well, Nick, how do people find the platform?
Very easy. So go to Gan Jing World. That basically means clean in Chinese. So the idea here is a clean world and bringing back some of that virtue and morality.
Nick Janicki, thank you for your time. We're proud of our channel on ganjing.com, and I appreciate you telling us all about it.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And now back to our hidden gems of California. I'm excited to be here.
I would do with the CIA.
Yeah, I'd love to know.
Really, the dangerous part of the CIA is the plans division, controlling the media, doing all this mischief and monkey business around the world.
You know, all the stuff with the CIA, it is computer. Hold on a second.
Mike fell down into my...
We meet again, Ben.
If you want to know specifically what I would do with the CIA,
Yeah, I'd love to know.
really the dangerous part of the CIA is the plans division, controlling the media, doing all this mischief and monkey business around the world.
You know, all the stuff with the CIA, it is computer. Hold on a second.
Personnel and over 50 refugees from the Laogai system, but I estimate that 65,000 Falun Gong were murdered for their organs from 2000 to 2008.
Essentially what organ harvesting means is they're taking Falun Gong practitioners literally like cattle, holding in prison camps, testing their blood and other vital organs, and when someone comes into the country that needs a heart, a liver, a kidney, they find a match, they take the Falun Gong practitioner, extract their organs, of course killing them in the process. It is literally life and death for many of the upper echelon of the party members that run China to not let the Falun Gong story be told.
Falun Gong has been exemplary in its response. It has never dealt with violence in a violent way. It's always responded with forbearance, with love, with truth, with patience, and ultimately that's going to prevail.
And nothing is being done to counter it.
Yeah, it is remarkable how that happens. I mean, RFK Jr. is being, smeared with this anti-Semitic label, and they tried to actually censor him, giving testimony in Congress the other day, and yet exactly what you just described is speech that's, allowed. I promised we'd get to this earlier. So Jennifer, very quickly, can you tell us what's happening in the United States? How is the CCP exporting this persecution, quite briefly?
Yes, I think very recently, actually, the U.S. government arrested two CCP agents who were persecuted Falun Gong in the United States. The CCP has exported their spies, their even police station to the U.S. to monitor anyone they want to persecute. So as Falun Gong is one of the most hated group by the CCP. So they harass Falun Gong practitioners, monitor them, and persecuted their families in China. So like back in 2007 or 8, the inside CCP thugs in Flushing, New York City, and actually physical physically assault Falun Gong practitioners who were telling the truth about Falun Gong to people on the street. So physically assault them, and this kind of thing not only happened in New York, but in San Francisco and Los Angeles and all the major cities. So PPP thugs openly, assault or damage personal items of Falun Gong practitioners. So they have very shamelessly extended the persecution to the United States and to many other Western countries as well. As the CCP has been very aggressive in all those years anyway. So Falun Gong practitioners is one of the group that target most severely.
Yeah, it's amazing that it can happen here to that extent. It really is. I'd like to move to sort of our last discussion, which is probably, let's bring some hope here and give people some tools. I want to ask each of you, what do you think will help the most in terms of what people can do with the information they've just heard today? Reggie, I'll start with you.
Well, there's a number of things that people can do. So, for example, I mentioned this FBI memo that said that traditional Catholics could be white supremacists and domestic threat actors, basically. And there was a whistleblower that brought that out. And because of the bravery of that person and because of the outcry, the FBI withdrew the memo. But would they have withdrawn it if it hadn't been a whistleblower? I tend to doubt it. But something that happened during COVID was that churches shut down and people got used to worshiping at home. And what happens is that when people get separated like that, when people get isolated like that, they tend to lose their faith. I mean, we need to come together. Like, people of faith need, go back to your church, go back to your synagogue, and start meeting together, because people of faith are like embers, and when you put us all together, we burst into a blaze of fire, but when you separate us all out, we kind of tend to die down. And so I would just say, really make an effort to get back to your faith community.
That's a beautiful imagery you put there. Okay, Bradley, same question to you. What do you think people can do to help the most?
Well, I think some encouraging things the first thing to do is be aware. And the past few years, I think we've seen a rise in awareness that came from going to alternative news sources and being able to not take the narrative that's being propagated by mainstream media that as a given. One thing I would point out is that though there is a significant rise in anti-Semitism, one of the encouraging signs is the fact that the IHRA, the International Holocaust Alliance's working definition of anti-Semitism, which defines anti-Semitism not only under the traditional view of bigotry and hatred against Jewish people, the Jewish religion, but it also includes Holocaust denial and denying Jewish self-determination in the state of Israel. It's been so far accepted by over 41 countries and 32 states in the United States, and this is 2023 stats. The fact is that, and also going back to Representative Jayapal and her anti-Semitism being displayed, it is encouraging, that many of her colleagues came out and reaffirmed their support for the state of Israel. Maybe not as forcefully as I would have liked, and but it is encouraging that it seems to be a sign that they are on notice, that they can't simply sweep it under the rug anymore, and it extends to hatred against all minority communities.
All right, and Jennifer, the same question to you. Seconds left, so be brief, but we're going to come back with you longer. But the persecution of Falun Gong, I would say, is probably the largest scale and least known.
Hijacked this movement and started trashing so many American cities, especially the Pacific Northwest, like Portland and Seattle.
Well, it's a remarkable story in the sense that known on Twitter, right? Like, it's kind of tying all these stories.
He made his name and his brand on Twitter. He's considered a Twitter journalist.
Right, and so, I did look a little bit into your coverage, and I can understand why it didn't go his way. But it's fascinating that he has been attacked. I mean, I've seen him. I've seen these images of him being brutalized.
In fact, beat up multiple times, targeted by Antifa, because he's so effective online because of his reporting. He just lays out the facts. And interestingly enough, the mainstream media doesn't report enough on the bad behavior of the far left versus the far right. If you listen to a lot of the mainstream media outlets, they'll always talk about the bad behavior of the Proud Boys or these white supremacist groups and so on and so forth. And I'm not condoning any of the bad behavior on either side. But what Noah is doing that's so remarkable, and he's spotlighting and shining the light on Antifa, these bad actors on the far left. And the reason why Noah's really been dealing with so much unfair scrutiny is that the far left and Antifa, they're so sophisticated with their online attacks that they've essentially smeared Andy Ngo and pigeonholed him now into this category of being this far-right conservative journalist. But in fact, if you look at his work, he's not. He's just reporting the facts. Now, he might, have a little edge to his, posts and his reporting because he goes right after some of these Antifa members, but they don't like it. And that's essentially why John Hacker, this fellow who was on trial, who ended up, getting off on at least this felony robbery, he admitted in court that that's why he went after Andy Ngo, because he hates Andy Ngo's journalism. And essentially the DA picked him apart and showed the double standard, because the DA said, well, Mr. Hacker, isn't this what you do online as well as an Antifa member? Aren't you spotlighting and doing exactly what you hate about being, about Andy Ngo? Aren't you doing the exact same thing to the far right? And he admitted to the judge and said yes. So it's a fascinating case again, but again, this Twitter angle, that's kind of the key here, that both sides are using the power of Twitter and social media to amplify their message.
Well, I mean, this is what we're seeing, right? The polarized content is what gets clicks, right? I saw some videos we were pumping out, and it was getting tens of thousands of views because Andy Ngo is such a controversial figure. And let's face it, I know you've also personally taken on scrutiny and criticism from folks who don't like your reporting.
Call me a proud boy. The far left calls me a proud boy because they don't like what I'm showing. It doesn't fit their narrative. And I've been called a neo-Nazi, a white supremacist, a fascist. So I was actually in Portland. I had to look over my shoulder because the Antifa folks, the far left, they know who I am as well. They call me the poor man's Andy Ngo out in Seattle. Or Andy.
By the way, why do they call you a white supremacist? Do they can't see clearly?
Yeah, exactly. I'm Asian American too, by the way. Whatever. Anyway,
that's an odd thing. Anyway, we'll move on. But it's
tackling him and just causing a scene, just going on, just again causing mayhem and just destroying the place. He was arrested, and obviously the restaurant's owners truly believe this was an incident of Asian hate. But when police investigated and asked the perpetrator here why he did it, he pretty much blamed it on the fact that he had a death in the family recently and wasn't behaving like himself. But man, I mean, come on, this is still happening. Asian hate, even though it may not officially be a hate crime, because I think the burden of proof is, prosecutors have to show that somebody may have yelled a, anti-Asian slur or, shown type of malicious intent based on race. But I mean, this is hate for the Asian American community.
I mean, it got more graphic each time I saw it there on the replay. It's completely heinous. It reminds me of that episode we did a few weeks ago where those high school students were fighting and that Asian kid got hit in the back. You remember that? I mean,
stabbed multiple times by this black kid. Now, was it Asian hate in the sense where he could be charged with a hate crime? I don't know, because I don't think he said any racial slurs. But the whole point in the Asian American community is these attacks keep on happening to Asian Americans by other races. That qualifies as Asian hate as far as I'm concerned.
I'm glad we are illuminating it. Unfortunately, it's not like it's going away. Each and every episode we're doing, we're showing not. It's usually multiple.
That's why we have jobs. We want to be out of jobs.